Hello, welcome to the ryoknits podcast. My name is Rhiannon. I am a intermediate knitter and knitting instructor living in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. For anyone who is new here, this is my first episode coming from Milwaukee and indeed coming from the state of Wisconsin. I previously lived in Portland, Oregon, and had lived there for about 10 years since I attended graduate school there. So it was a major goal for the year 2021 for me to relocate, and my wife and I had visited Milwaukee several times and just liked it a lot. Actually, I say several times, we had visited it once before 2021, and we made a point to come back in July of 2021 in that sort of brief lull when it seemed like the virus was making a retreat and everybody suddenly felt free to do things again and to travel. We did get in a little trip, and it was really for us confirmation that this is where we wanted to be. So long story short, I have relocated and I am now coming to you from Milwaukee, Wisconsin in my new living room, which is a lot prettier than my old living room. Behind me, you see beautiful leaded glass cabinets. These are original to the house we're in. This house was built in, I think, the 1920s. And I have to say, I'm really impressed by Milwaukee architecture. There's so much architecture here that is just really old and stunning, and from an era when people put a lot of thought into what the experience would be like of living in a space. I think that homes nowadays are built more along sort of a prioritizing comfort and giving the occupant a blank slate. So we had just been living in Portland for a long time in an apartment that was, a high-rise downtown, in the thick of things, and very modern, a pretty new building. It was less than a year old when we moved into it. So this is a big change of pace for us, and one that we embrace. I don't want to start the episode talking so much about my move because this is a knitting podcast and I'm here to talk about knitting. But obviously that has been occupying all of my time and energy and thoughts for the last month at least. So yeah, I don't really have an agenda today. I don't really have any show notes for you, and I apologize for that. But I wanted to just get back into podcasting because this is something I've done that has helped me connect to other knitters and has brought me a lot of joy. And I know that I get a lot of joy out of watching other knitting podcasts and seeing what other people are making and just hearing about how their making is going. It was an unexpected thing for me that I didn't get what I thought I was going to get out of this podcast. So when I say that, what I mean is at the beginning of 2020, I decided to start doing a knitting podcast because I wanted to meet up with people and go to fiber festivals and travel and bring you footage of my travels of different yarn stores that I went to. And I also wanted to meet a lot of people in person. So it didn't really happen that way, of course, and unfortunately, the first trip I did in 2020, I was so excited about this yarn store that I completely forgot to film, and then shortly after that, everything closed down and we were no longer traveling and that sort of stuff. So it didn't turn out the way I expected, but I have met people, I have made friends. I already have a knitting community here in Milwaukee, which is really sweet. I met a few people online before I even moved here and have since met up with them and knitted with them. I met up with somebody back in July. I have more people that I have yet to meet up with, but I'm really excited to get to know the knitting community. And, when you move to a new city and you are already a knitter, it's a lot easier, I think, to plug yourself into those circles. Whereas when I moved to Portland, I was not a knitter. So when I became a knitter, it sort of was a bit of a journey for me to find my people, you know. I didn't know how to go about that, just because I was new to the craft and new to the whole, you know, what are the spaces, right, where you meet other knitters other than a yarn shop. I mean, which is a good space, but you know, I didn't even know about fiber festivals as of like 2018 or something, so pretty recently. I'm drinking coffee. I have an important announcement to make, which is that we are now Chemex people. We are no longer French press people. I still love a good French press of coffee, but our new place does not have a dishwasher or garbage disposal. And without a garbage disposal, scraping those grounds out into the garbage is just a little more onerous. I used to be able to just rinse them down the sink, you know, which I guess I could do now because they're small particles, but that doesn't feel right. So we got a Chemex, and we're doing pour over so that we can, one, brew more coffee at a time, and two, just pull the filter out and throw it away at the end. So the grounds are not becoming like this big sink mess anyway. And I'm drinking a coffee that is actually from Oregon. The brand is Tostado, and I think I have talked about it before, so I won't go into details, but a friend gifted it to us. We have been discovering some really great local coffees here. And in fact, one of the knit nights that I'm gonna make part of my regular routine is at Venture Brewing Company, which is a coffee and craft beer establishment. How Milwaukee is that, and how awesome is that? I'm so excited that that's where the knitters have chosen to meet up, and they have a fantastic fruit sour. It is so good. When I got there, I feel like that's what everyone was drinking, and I was like, amen, we're on the same page. So without further ado, I guess I'll just jump right into knitting content. Like I said, I have been moving, and that is a crap ton of work. So I haven't been knitting a lot, but I have two things to kind of share that are works in progress. I'm currently wearing my Weekender Light. I knit this last year. The yarn was a birthday gift. So I knit it last winter. And this has been a really great sweater for this climate. I think the gauge is just dense enough that it creates a pretty solid fabric. And it's one of the few sweaters I have made that has sleeves like all the way long, because I do like to roll my sleeves up. So I often knit things with 3/4 sleeves. And this one I also made it extra long because I was like, look, if this is my slobbing around the house weekend sweater, it's going to be really cozy, and it's actually wonderful for this climate. I'm working on another sweater that is worsted weight. It is a top-down circular yoke style sweater. It has really interesting shaping where you do a lot of increases in one row and then you don't increase for a while. So kind of like a pie shawl, sort of, you know, where rather than spreading increases out gradually. And I'm curious to see how that's going to fit and how that's going to differ from other things that I have, because I do think, you know, when you're knitting from the neck outward, you do have some kind of rapid increase areas, right? You have, I mean, it's quite a distance to get, you know, your shoulders and your arms, and then, you know, sort of to get to this widest part of your body in not a lot of inches to do that in. So this is the sweater. I'll show you the front of it. It is called Rook. It's by Kyoko. I cannot remember their last name, her last name, but it's a Brooklyn tweed pattern. I think it might be like Nakayoshi or something like that. Anyways, it's a really cool pattern that just has these kind of sharp angled cables down the front. And then the same motif goes down the sleeve on the side. So it's gonna run right down the side of the arm. I'm really excited about this, and I wanna get a little bit farther. As you can see, I haven't made a ton of progress. I'm maybe 3 inches below the underarm. So just separated for sleeves maybe right before we moved, and then haven't done a whole lot on it since then. I had a bit of an internal debate about whether I wanted to separate the sleeves and the body to where the body was a different ratio, because there's a lot of I guess debate might not be the word, but conversation around how yoke-shaped sweaters fit. And most people have a lot more of their circumference, right? We're not cylinders, so more of our girth, I guess, is on the front of our bodies versus our backs. And for sure, as you go down the back, especially, you know, if you have a pretty defined waist, you're going to need a lot less fabric on the back. And so a lot of people split their yokes rather than like 50-50, here's the front, here's the back. They do more of like a 60-40, or even I think 55-45 would give you 10% more fabric on the front. And I split the normal 50-50 way on here, and I thought, should I change that? And so I considered ripping back and doing, I'm sorry, you can probably hear my neighbor drilling. There's nothing I can do about it. We do have a downstairs neighbor, so this is a standard Milwaukee upstairs downstairs flat kind of situation. But the what I was saying about the sweater is that I in the end decided to just stick with the 50-50 split, because I knew I was going to do waist shaping, and I thought, you know, I can take a little bit out of the back that I don't put back in. Whereas in the front, for sure, I want to put back in whatever I take out in terms of stitches. So if you're not familiar with doing waist shaping on a garment, what that is essentially, because your body may narrow at a certain point and then expand back out, you want to decrease your stitch count as you get towards that waist part and then increase it back for your hips. This is a really great way to customize a fit if you do not have the same size bust as hips. And I do this a lot, where I take out, you know, say I took out 10 stitches, right, from the bust down to the waist. Then I put back in 14 because my hips are bigger than around my chest. And the other thing that is important too is that sometimes you want your chest to be, you don't want a ton of ease in the chest because, well, this is a very baggy sweater, so shows you exactly what I mean. If you were doing a chest circumference of say 44 inches, that means it's 44 inches. It's bigger up above maybe the fullest part of your body. And so across your shoulders, you often get this extra fabric here. So in a big baggy sweater, maybe that doesn't bother you, and this is meant to be kind of boxy. It's got a drop shoulder, you know, it's meant to be oversized. But some people don't want to have all that extra fabric right here, and I totally understand that. So the other thing is that a lot of times people want a sweater to fit their body exactly. And that's another reason I didn't do the 50-50 split, is that I don't think that every sweater I own needs to fit my body exactly. Obviously I don't want the sleeves to be too long. I don't want it to be the wrong length in terms of what I want it for, you know. Sometimes I want a sweater longer because I'm going to wear it with jeans, and sometimes I want it shorter. I'm going to wear it with dresses that tend to be a little more high-waisted. But essentially, I don't believe that I need to get a perfect fit on every sweater. I think the way that sweaters are designed and the way that knit garments are designed in general is that you have one shape and you tailor that shape to the size of the person, right? So you increase stitches as you go up the sizes. So a great example is if you look at the patterns by Tin Can Knits, right? They make patterns that go from like a newborn infant size all the way to a good sized adult. And those patterns, it is the same pattern for all of those sizes, right? And obviously all of people that fit into that spectrum are going to have different measurements and different proportions. But the point is not to have a perfectly tailored garment. The point is to have a comfortable garment that does the job, right? And so this is like the whole philosophy of sweater making here. But I think essentially I feel often like there's a lot of pressure to get a perfect fit with the sweater and to take out that extra ease that occurs in the back when you're doing a yoke. But for me, it doesn't really bother me. So it comes down to personal preference and belief about how a sweater should fit. And I don't care if my sweaters are a little bit baggier in the back. I don't know if anybody is really paying attention to that. And if they are, then that's just them, right? Like, I don't look at other people's sweaters and go, wow, there's just too much fabric hanging off the back. I never think about it, right? So yeah, so I decided not to do that whole 60-40 split or 55-45, whatever, and just went with what it is. But I am gonna take out a little more in the waist shaping because I think that will, well, I don't think I'm gonna take out more. I'm just gonna not put it back in, if that makes sense. Because, yeah, maybe not though. Now that I'm thinking about it, it does have to expand for the behind. So we'll see. I'm kind of winging it with the waist shaping on this, and usually I write down everything I'm doing and I'm very specific, but I think I'm gonna just keep trying it on and wing it. The other thing about this pattern, again, with the interesting way that the yoke has been shaped, you do get kind of almost puff sleeves. You get these sort of big shoulders, and not everyone loves that, but I like it and I think it's going to be fine. If it's not fine, I think I'm going to take out some of the ease of the sleeve underneath in the underarm, and that would be great because I think it will just make the underarm more stable to lose some stitches there. When I pick up for a sleeve, I usually cast on a few extra stitches to close up those gaps. And then I knit those two together, you know, like if you're supposed to add on 8 stitches, I will do 10 or even 12 and then knit 2 together twice at the ends to get down to 8 on the next round. But all of that to say that, you know, I'm still figuring out different ways I want to modify this pattern. And it's got me thinking a lot about modifications in general and what the purpose is and how, you know, how far down the mod road do you need to get? And when is it just right to just like let the thing be what it is, right? Which is a pullover. It's just a pullover. Okay, I have confirmed the pattern is Rook by Kyoko Nakayoshi. I like to give the individual designer credit, even though it's a Brooklyn tweed pattern, because, you know, I think if I said just a Brooklyn tweed pattern, you might think maybe it's a Jared Flood pattern, or maybe people just want to know, right, who actually designed it. A lot of times I find that if you like one design by a designer, you probably like more of their designs. So it's good to know who they are. And I don't know if this is someone who regularly designs for Brooklyn Tweed or only sometimes, or maybe just this one time. So that's why I give her name. Anyway, it has been cold and stormy here, and it's been pretty fun. It rained a lot yesterday, and that made it warmer. The clouds kind of held in the heat like they do back, in the Northwest, in the Pacific Northwest, I should say. Just all night the wind was blowing. We have the wind literally weathers here, like Wuthering Heights. It howls like a ghost. And so we moved here right in time for Halloween. So that was really fun. Anyways, my second project is living in this bag, and I've had many inquiries about this bag. This isn't something you can buy, unfortunately, but it's really beautiful. It looks like papel picado. This was made by the super talented Marilisa Lugo of Girl Meets Yarn. She's a podcaster, she's a knitter, she's a embroiderer, a baker, a cook, like chef quality, went to culinary school, cook. She does all kinds of sewing projects. And I've always been impressed by everything she does. And she actually gave me this bag as a gift. And I thought that was so sweet. But this is something that she bought, I think, black fabric and hand stamped it. So she cut out the stamps, stamped the fabric, basically block printed this fabric, and sewed a bag out of it, and then put in a lining, put a little tassel on it. It's fantastic. It's really fantastic. So I get a lot of inquiries about it, and I know people want to buy one. So if you really want one, I guess you'd have to ask her if she would consider selling either just the fabric or the bags or whatever. I don't know. I doubt you're gonna get one, but there's the answer for all the people who've asked. And I've been using this a lot because it's a smaller project bag. It's more of a for me, it's a shawl size, I guess. I like to scrunch things up really small. I guess this wouldn't work if you were doing like a big worsted weight shawl, but I'm using this very fine Holst Super Soft. I had an entire cone of this, and I'm getting down to where I ripped it off the cone, so it's just kind of a sad sock right now. This is what I have left, but if you look at it, there's probably at least 50 grams here. It's still substantial. So yeah, it looks like a little cake of yarn, doesn't it? I'm knitting the half and half triangles wrap that everybody and their grandma is making. So what I have right now to show you is just a big white piece of fabric. That's all I have. It is, it's really fun to knit, and it's been the perfect project for moving because, yeah, I haven't had a lot of downtime, and then the downtime I've had, I think, has been more in like chunks of time, like little chunks of time. And also I haven't had the mental bandwidth, I would say, to do things like cables, or I don't want to sit down and pull out my chart and work from a chart when I'm just like tired or, I feel like I've made all the decisions I could possibly make that day. So yeah, I find it interesting because when I first became aware of this pattern, I saw it on the Pearl Soho website a long time ago, and I liked it. But when I first became aware of it as something that was fun to knit was from the Caddy Jacks podcast, and I remember they were talking about it at the beginning, sort of the beginning of the pandemic, about how when you're stressed out, just knitting garter stitch really feels good. It's really easy. It's really mindless in a way, and you just know that when you get to the end of the row, you're going to have to wrap a stitch, turn around, knit a stitch, move your marker, and then go back to the end, right? It's so good to have something that doesn't require you to do a lot of thinking. So that's where this is at. This is, again, Holst Super Soft in the color Bleached White. You can see it's getting a very, I guess it goes this way, that's the bottom edge, triangular shape. I still have a lot of stitches a lot of ground to cover. And I don't know how the heck people are whipping these out left, right, and center, because it is a size 3 needle, so it's a pretty fine gauge. And I find that it is taking me longer than I guess I thought it would. But again, I've been moving. Things have been, unusually busy for us. And I'll get there when I get there. What I want to do is get to the halfway point and then set it aside and work on some other projects that I have, works in progress, because I don't know what I want the second color to be. Part of me wants to do like a really brilliant, bright, like carmine Christmas red, right? Like something so vivid and bold. And part of me wants to do black and just have a black and white one, which feels really boring, but also would go with literally everything. Part of me also is drawn to kind of an icy blue I think I'm leaning towards a winter thing, right? So I'm like, is it like bright Christmas red, or is it icy blue, kind of winter color? And I also have some sparkle yarn that I could mix in. I thought about adding, doing some kind of embroidery over the top with yarn and making it have sparkle, or I don't know what I want to do. But either way, it's fun. I probably will make more of these. And I think, you could make a half and half triangles coaster. You could make half and half triangles like cushion cover, right? And then sew a back on it, or knit the back solid, or whatever, like you could make like a pillow cover, you could make really anything your heart desires with this pattern. It is just a square of fabric, and it's garter stitch, and it feels good to make it. So why not? It's fun. And I think if you are feeling like your knitting mojo has decreased or diminished, it would be a great way to keep your hands busy, but not put a lot of pressure on yourself to think, and to, like some knitting projects require a little more setup and a little more time, right? Like I'm not going to get into an all over cable project if I only have 15 minutes to knit. That just feels like it takes me 2 to 3 minutes just to get into it, and then I get half a row done in 10 minutes or whatever. It can be slow going, and I'm not a fast knitter. I think that separates me from a lot of podcasters. I know a lot of people just seem to crank things out really quickly, and I'm done trying to figure out like how people do that, because I just I knit at the pace I knit at, and if I knit at a comfortable pace, I don't get repetitive stress injuries usually. So like I will get tendinitis if I'm trying to like knit as fast as I can, and that's just not worth it. I'd rather have a slow and steady wins the race kind of attitude. So I have, that's it for works in progress. I don't have any finished objects, obviously. I do have some acquisitions, and I thought I would talk a little bit more about Milwaukee, and maybe I'll do a separate video on why I moved here. If anyone's interested, let me know. I've had a lot of people ask me, so why did you move to Milwaukee? And I feel like it's one of those things where the best answer is really why not, right? Because I think sometimes when people ask that question, they have reasons in their own head why they wouldn't do something that you've done. But they need to understand that those reasons are not universal. We don't all have the same circumstances in life or whatever. So yeah, so if you really want to know all the reasons, I can talk about that, but I'm not going to in this video. I will talk a little bit about getting to know the city. So yeah, let's get into that. And that's part of the acquisition story. So I guess the first acquisition I actually have to share, hang on. Okay, I don't know if I've shared this before. So if I have, then you'll just politely pretend like you've never heard it. So before we moved, we did go visit my mother-in-law in Missoula, Montana, and I found a yarn store there called Joseph's Coat. It was a pretty good yarn store. They had a good selection. They had a lot of stuff on sale that I wish I needed. There were some sweater quantities of yarn, and I know it was like all natural fiber. It was like 100% wool. Some of it was wool alpaca. It was from Europe. I feel like it was like a screaming deal. There was some like Donegal tweed stuff, and I mean, it was really beautiful, but I was like, I cannot justify buying another sweater's quantity of yarn. Or really even another single skein of sock yarn, because I have so much yarn to get through, which in no way have I lived up to that, and we'll talk about that a little bit. But I did buy one skein of this Rambouillet Targhee wool from a Montana-based dyer. So Tobacco Root Valley, this is Montana raised and processed wool. So I was like, this is special. This feels like souvenir yarn. And it's this beautiful color called Larkspur. The closer it gets to the camera, the less accurate, I guess, the color appears. But it's darker than what it's showing up, and it's more purple. So it looks more, I would say, mauve on the screen, but it's actually more purple. Yeah, and you know, I'm in a room with sort of yellowish walls, and I have to have this down because, well, maybe I don't know. It was really screwing up the light. Oh yeah, no, that's bad. Okay, make that open. Anyways, I got this beautiful skein of DK weight yarn, and I thought this will make a great cowl. I just thought it'd be nice to have a cowl out of this, and I might do another version of my horchata cowl, which is my sort of only pattern that I have published to date, other than a free one that doesn't really count because I just sort of threw it out there and didn't put any effort into it. Yeah, this is 250 yards of Targhee Rambouillet wool from Montana. So Montana sheep, yeah, all of that. The other thing I bought before I left town is I went to For Yarn's Sake in Beaverton, Oregon, because they have the Marie Wallin British breeds, and I'm gonna join a Marie Wallin knit along that's going through next August. And I just bought some yarn to swatch with. So I want to make the pattern Nigella, and I think this is going to give me better contrast, these two colors, but I also am considering would a lower contrast be okay, because it's pretty, you know, this very gray and very blue, right? So this is the color Silver Birch, which is a gray with just a tiny hint of brown in it. I mean, just a very almost invisible like warmth to it, but it does come across as a warm gray. So I'm usually all about the cool colors. So, but these, I think, this is Marie Wallen's British Breeds yarn. It's meant to go with her patterns, and the colors are blended in such a way that you could choose any of the colors from the collection and they would work together. This is the darker kind of teal color. It's called Mallard. And it is just a really pretty teal. It's got a lot of color variegation in it. I want you to see it in all its glory. I want you to see it in all its glory. And this is the color Eau de Nil, which is basically the same thing but lighter, I would say. So it has that same kind of heathered appearance. You can see the difference though. This one's quite a bit darker. So I'm gonna do a swatch because this yarn is pretty precious. You know, it's not like a Jamieson's or a Jameson and Smith's. It's a little more pricey. And it is special because it's also like multiple breeds of sheep that are blended. So it has some different qualities. I also think if I wanted to just really lean into who I am as a person and just do all blue green, I could totally do those two colors together. And that wouldn't be a bad idea. But I don't know. I think part of me just wants this to work for some reason because I feel like I don't knit enough with gray. And this Mallard color is like, for me, the perfect color. I do love a good tealy blue-green. Anything between blue and green is pretty much the perfect color. So I got those in Beaverton, Oregon. So then I started to check out some stores here in Milwaukee. I had been to Cream City Yarn just last summer, so I didn't need to go and buy a lot of stuff there. But I did get this lotion bar. It's Love and Leche. It's got a cute goat on it. And this is the Spice Chai fragrance. So, oh, this is actually made in Florida. Interesting. So this is actually made in Florida, but it was kind of like the fragrance of the month or whatever. And I need a lot of lotion bars. I'm pretty sure I need something in every knitting bag I have that's active because my hands are dry here. My skin's dry, and especially after you handle hundreds of cardboard boxes, your hands are very dry. So that's what I got. And then I also got this skein. This is really cool. I have been wanting to try this yarn for a while. It's called the Croft, and it is Shetland wool in an Aran weight, made by West Yorkshire Spinners. So this is probably the first thing from West Yorkshire Spinners I've ever purchased. But the colorway is Norwick. Maybe that's pronounced Noric. And it looks like it's made by the Jamieson and Smith mill, maybe, or maybe they make it on behalf of West Yorkshire Spinners, because I think of West Yorkshire Spinners as more of a, I think they do all those really cool sock yarns, right? So I don't know. Anyways, I was really delighted to see that Cream City Yarn carries this in their store, because this is one that you don't see a lot of in Portland. I've never seen it there locally. I actually had only even heard of it because of the Fairlight Fibers website. So yeah, there's not a lot of like Shetland and British breed stuff, or even European yarn in general in Portland, which I find very interesting. Maybe because there's so much good local stuff, but I mean, heck, some of the local Portland dyers, their stuff is here too, you know. So yeah, Cream City Yarn also has an entire wall, and they stock every color of Jameson and Smith, and you know, the, what is it, 4-ply or 2-ply jumper weight, which is a really good, just perfect color work yarn. So very excited that they carry this, and I had to get one, and I thought, Aran weight, I'm gonna make myself a hat. I want to have a blue hat. So you know, just having like a thicker hat. Yeah, you know, something that is going to be really interesting here is that I feel like to date, most of what I've knitted is like DK weight or lighter for garments, even for hats and stuff. I don't have a ton of, I guess I've done some hats that are worsted weight. But, you know, in the Pacific Northwest, it doesn't get that cold. It actually can feel pretty warm in the winter if it's rainy, because of the way that the clouds hold the heat in, and just the fact that, you know, in order for it to rain, the air has to be a certain amount of warm. So, you know, even something like this sweater, I didn't get as much use out of, and I had... you know, I had this thought before we moved here, but that, you know, moving here would change kind of the weight of yarn that I regularly knit with. So I am looking forward to more like worsted and Aran weight in my life, because I like that weight. I think when you start getting, you know, into like chunky and bulky, it's not the yarn I don't like so much as the needles. Sometimes those needles are just too big and it's very uncomfortable for my hands. But yeah, I'm looking forward to just having more like worsted and Aran, because I do like a good squishy thing, right? And so when you're knitting with like fingering weight, you end up with a kind of thinner fabric, which can be nice and can still feel very soft, but I am looking forward to some like right? So the other thing is that I went to another yarn store. Now, it's funny because currently I do not have a job, which means I am not getting a regular paycheck. And it costs thousands of dollars to move across country. It costs whatever you planned for, it costs more than that. So naturally, the thing I should be doing is spending more money, right? No. And when you have so much yarn that you could knit for 2 years or more and not get through it, you should naturally buy more yarn, right? Anyways, I went to another yarn store called Fiberwood Studio. I have to show you this bag because I love that they do this. They are like all about the no waste. So they take their scraps and they just tie it on the bag, and then you get a really cute little bag, and somehow that makes me not want to throw this away. It's otherwise a plain paper bag, sturdy, but you know, just ordinary, but they've elevated it. So this store is actually really cool because it's a lot more focused on weaving and other fiber arts. So more of the, I want to say like fine art too. Like they have art stuff on the walls. Sorry if you can hear my spouse's work Zoom call. It's just life. So this store is more weaving focused, and they have looms all over, and they do teach. And so I'm hoping to take a class because I've inherited a couple of Merrick's looms, and I don't really know enough about weaving, and I really think it's the sort of thing I want to have someone show me how to do so that I know what to, like, even how to think about it, right? How to begin picking my colors and deciding what to weave. So you know, the Merrick's looms are really small ones, and they're meant for making small things like maybe a little wall hanging or, you know, a little coaster or a little bookmark, right? They're not full-size looms, but I think that's a great way to learn, right? With something small. They do stand up by themselves, and well, one of them does, and then the other one is real tiny, so I think it's just a lap kind of situation. But anyway, I went to the store. I was looking at everything. They had all kinds of amazing stuff. They have cones of yarn that you can buy yardage off of the cones, which felt really cool, like in a fabric store, how you can just say, I want 5 yards of this or whatever. You could say, I want, 100 grams of that and 200 grams of that. So it had a really cool vibe to it. I really liked the person I was talking to. It just felt like a nice place. And yeah, I look forward to learning a little weaving there. But what I bought has nothing to do with weaving. I mean, not that it couldn't. I bought mohair. Another thing I am excited to experiment with more now that I live in a colder climate is mohair. So I bought these 3 from Shibui Knits. And I think the grand irony is that being from Portland, I used to shop at Knit Pearl, which is the store that the owner of Shibui Knits had before this took off and became her whole life. Where I think she didn't want to have a store anymore because she was like, yeah, I'm busy enough with my yarn company. So I bought this beautiful wine colored mohair. They don't have the names on them. They have oh wait, no, this color is Bordeaux. It does have the name. I just didn't know where to look. So here it is. It's a really pretty wine color. This is the color Shore. It's a really soft light blue. And then this is Blueprint, which is a cobalt, I would say, like a cobalt blue. It's really, really stunning. And the camera is just not able to show you how fantastic it truly is, but I think the color even looks more accurate from a distance. But I got these to mix and mingle with some yarns that I already have because I want to try to make like a hat with some mohair in it. Again, it's just, it's colder here. It's going to be a lot colder here. We've already got, the weather app is showing a little snowflake maybe in the forecast, in the 10-day forecast. So, I think being able to knit with mohair, I mean, I could always do that, but I made a shawl that had mohair in it. I haven't really felt like making a sweater with mohair or even a hat with mohair before because of the reality that, I just would have ended up being a sweaty mess. So now I think, I can start to experiment and incorporate mohair into things. So I'm going to be playing with this, and somehow I made it to winter again with not enough accessories, and especially hats and cowls. I feel like I don't have as many hats and cowls as I wish I did that I like to wear. I have one hat that I wear all the time. It's the Cool Khan. I knit that last year with a pattern from Mackenzie, who is to the Third Yarn Co. She had a new line of yarn, and so she created this pattern for it, and I used the suggested yarn, and it worked out so well that now none of my other hats feel good enough. I also knit one that's really beautiful last winter, but it was always like the color just isn't good on me, and so I think I'm gonna end up gifting that. Really, that's someone else should wear it because it's so pretty and it's so soft, and it does not do me any favors. So yeah, I'm figuring out, what are the things I need to make in the near future? What do I need to be ready for the winter that's gonna happen here? And it's coming really soon. I had a beautiful bright red tree out the window just a couple days ago, and then all the leaves fell off in the storm day before yesterday. It just like was suddenly a naked tree. There's like one leaf hanging on for dear life. And that's, you know, I guess, that's it. It's winter, you know, winter's coming. So, yeah, that's all the knitting content I have for you, but I thought I would share a little bit now, if you're interested in hearing about my move and how that went. I will share about that. So, where to begin? So I'll begin with kind of the first thing that didn't go according to plan. We had arranged to have our items, our stuff, our furniture, everything shipped. And we were gonna drive our car with our cat in it all the way here. So as soon as Sarah had a job confirmation in hand, or a job offer, you know, signed a contract, whatever, we were beginning to pack things. We were planning. We had already packed up certain things that were kind of like, I'm not going to touch this for a while. So, you know, we packed it, like I packed up my yarn dyeing equipment in August or something, because before we even knew when we would move, because I was like, look, I don't want to get into this until after the move, right? So a few things were in boxes. A lot of our books were in boxes. And our apartment was chaos because there were just like stacks of boxes and then like empty shelves and whatever. But we thought, okay, we've got the truck reserved, right? We hired a moving company to have professional movers put all the things into the truck, right? So we packed it, but they loaded it. And then about a week before the truck was due to arrive, we found out that they actually don't deliver it according to a specific schedule. They just sort of drop it off between the hours of blank and blank, which was like not okay, because we're like, in order to schedule movers to load the truck, we have to know what time the truck will be here. So that didn't work out for us. We were like, well, that's just not going to work. And then they had to leave it overnight. So we were under the impression before they had told us that, yeah, we dropped the truck off. You let us know when to pick it up and we come pick it up. And then they're like, oh no, we pick it up within 3 days. You let us know and then we pick it up within 3 days. And we were like, that's not okay. Like, we need to, you know, we live downtown. We cannot have a massive truck parked, like a semi basically, parked outside of our apartment building for days and not know when it's gonna go. And also we were planning on leaving the day after everything got loaded into the truck. So we ended up having to rent a U-Haul. Fortunately, there was one available, because we also were kind of down to the wire of like, well, we got to get there because Sarah's going to start their new job. So we had to rent a U-Haul. And so that meant that one of us would be driving the car and one of us would be driving the U-Haul. Thankfully, my mother-in-law came to our rescue. You know, Sarah said, hey, Mom, I need your help. And she said, yes, I'm here for you. I'm retired. I got nothing else going on that I have to do, right? So let me help you. And that turned out then to be kind of the silver lining, because we got to have more time with my mother-in-law. And this is, I guess, the first time that, well, she had never been to Milwaukee. She didn't really know where we were going. And we've always lived within driving distance of each other. And so I think there was like a little bit of a, you know, a concern of like, boy, you're going to be so far away. I would really like to know where you're going to be. I don't know what it's like there. I don't know who is going to be your neighbors or whatever. So it was kind of, I think, reassuring for her to come and to see where we landed and be like, okay, this is a nice place. I like your neighbors. It's very cool. But this whole like last month has been like something goes really wrong or not according to plan. And then there's a silver lining, or it turns out actually that was better. And I am just not a person who deals well with, I'll just say when I know a change is coming, I can mentally prepare myself for it. And I get really caught up in my narrative of how it's going to happen. So, for it to then at the last minute happen in a completely different way, really throws me for a loop. And I'm trying to get just make peace with this, because hello, none of us is in control of life. We don't really know what's going to happen. If 2020 taught us nothing else, it taught us that life is unpredictable and out of our control. But so that just changed the whole dynamic, right? Rather than us splitting the driving in our car and having a relatively easy drive, we were rotating between U-Haul, car, etc. The next thing that happened is that our cat freaked the fuck out. And so the first place we stayed was a horrible, horrible, horrible motel. I had no idea I don't know anything about motels really. So what I have learned is Best Western is awesome. Super 8 is garbage. Don't ever go there. It literally feels like there's a drug deal happening and human trafficking happening. And it just feels like a very unsafe, weird place. The one in Spokane anyway. So we had kind of a shorter driving day, just to get our cat acclimated to being in the car for a long time. And then we stayed in this horrible place where I could barely sleep because it just felt really awful. And then there were coyotes howling outside. So Miso, our cat, was just freaking out, was unhappy because we put her in a car and we took her to this horrible place and then we said, okay, we're going to sleep now. And we ate Domino's pizza. It was really bad. And so this is all unfamiliar to the cat, and we end up in this horrible place with coyotes howling outside. So, that sucked. Then the next night we were in a, Best Western, which was way nicer. But what didn't go right then is that we thought we were going to make it all the way to, I don't know why I thought, we passed through Missoula, and then I think we thought, oh no, we went to Billings. So we were in Billings, Montana. It was a longer drive than we thought. And again, the cat just started to make a lot of noise at 3 a.m. So at this point, we have not really slept for a couple days, and we're driving a lot. And fortunately for me, I got to I only just drove the car. I did not drive the U-Haul. Sarah and her mom split that, but it was still kind of a lot. So, and we're operating on almost no sleep. We're not eating the best food because we're eating what's available, and we're tired and we don't have maybe the energy to go find a good restaurant. And we don't want to leave our cat in a hotel room, so we couldn't go out to eat anyway. So then we go from Billings, and our plan was to do a super long day and go from Billings all the way to Minneapolis. And we had reserved the hotel in advance. But we got about an hour away from Fargo. And we were like, this is ridiculous. We're so tired. And we stopped at a rest stop, and Sarah came in and just looked at me and was like, I can't do this anymore. It was pouring rain. It was pitch black out. we're driving in the night. There's all these semis that are just gunning it, 80 miles an hour, 70 miles an hour, whatever. They're just ripping down the road like nobody's business. And once you get past, I would say, the center of Montana, everything is a long straight road. So you really can't drive as fast as you can and not worry. I mean, you're not going to have a curve ahead or whatever, like you can see, but at night when it's raining, the visibility is really diminished. So you should maybe not drive that fast. But anyways, there's these semis that are just barreling past us, and the U-Haul will only go up to about 65 before it starts to get really uncomfortable. So every time we would stop at a rest stop and then like meet back up, I would be waiting in the car, for the U-Haul to catch up. So we're operating on no sleep. We're exhausted. We're like, okay, we're close to Fargo, so let's just go there. So we go to Fargo. Thankfully, we find another Best Western, and again, that's where you want to stay if you're on the road. That's where you want to stay. So we're staying there, but we end up having to pay for the one in Minneapolis because we can't really cancel it that late and get our money back. So we paid for a hotel we didn't use, and then that meant that last day, instead of being the 5 hours from Minneapolis to Milwaukee, ended up being like another 10-hour or more day. So we're just not sleeping well. We're getting, I think the most I ever got was maybe 4 hours of sleep in these days. So I'm operating on not enough sleep. I'm driving in the dark because it's winter and the days are getting shorter, and we are heading a little bit north, I think. So within the last hour and a half before we got to Milwaukee, I'm driving by myself in the car, and Miso is in this car seat thing that's specially designed for pets on long road trips, so they can get, stretch and move around. But she had been sitting pretty much in like a loaf position or laying down the entire time. She didn't really want to like get up and walk around in there. She just starts moaning. Like, I don't even know how to describe it. She is moaning. She's had it. She's hit the wall. And I had to figure out, it's like when a baby cries and you're like, okay, check their diaper. Do they need food? Do they need a drink? Like, what is going on? Why is this baby crying? I don't know. I have to do something to soothe it. But I also have to drive to Milwaukee at night in the dark. So I am like, the sooner we get there, the better, the happier she's gonna be. But she hasn't eaten or gone to the bathroom since that morning. And we just had these like tear open pouches of pate food, which she normally likes, but that's kind of what we had been feeding her, and she hadn't really been eating a lot. So it's dark. I pull over at a rest stop and I squirt some of that onto a piece of paper for her, and she takes a few bites and she calms down, and I think, okay, we're good. And then I start driving again, and then she starts moaning again. And so we did that a couple times where first I tried to stop and give her food, and then I tried to stop and soothe her. I thought maybe she needed a bathroom, and so I was like, okay, maybe you poop in this lemon tree and by the way, I had a lemon tree in the car. So I'm driving in this car that has basically a cat, a bunch of plants, and then, a bunch of other crap just thrown in. And it's nuts. And I'm going like 90 miles an hour driving through, Milwaukee, counting the exits, whatever. So for the last hour and a half of the drive, I was listening to the cat just scream her frustration at me and trying to reassure her that it was going to be okay. And yeah, so that was pretty disastrous. Then Then of course we arrive here. It's like 1 in the morning. And I have to wait 30 minutes for the U-Haul to catch up because it just doesn't drive as fast as a car again. So we just come into the apartment and it's this bare place, right? And so the cat's just kind of walking around, sniffing things, and everything I thought we were gonna do. Like, you know, when you move a cat, it's better if you kind of keep them in one room for a while and then gradually let them into the rest of it. Well, she had it. So I was like, I have to, you know, get her a place to go to the bathroom. So I had like the litter and I had a disposable pan with me. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna get in this apartment. I'm gonna set up a litter box for her. I'm gonna give her some food. And I did those things, and then she seemed not interested in those because I think it's just very stressful. And I think she just was saying, I've had it. You need to stop driving. I think that's what she was yelling at me for that 90 minutes. And, you know, we can't get into the U-Haul and get stuff out. We just can't. So we are here at like 2 a.m. and we think maybe we'll pull an all-nighter. So, you know, we bring in whatever we need for the night, and all we could find was one air mattress. So we were like, I guess we're gonna timeshare this one air mattress. Well, the cat burrowed under the blankets. And every day since then, in the morning, she burrows under the blankets. So I've started calling her the sandworm, which is a Dune reference. If you don't know, there's a critter called the sandworm. Critter is not the right term. It's a big, horrifying monster that eats everything. But, you know, she burrows under the blankets, and then you just see this like lump kind of moving along under the blankets. And it's really adorable. But that's her new thing, is burrowing. And so she's starting to get back to wanting to be awake sometimes during the day, sometimes even eating during the day, but she's been really stressed out. And so I've been here. There's been boxes everywhere. I find things and then I lose things. I spent half an hour this morning looking for this tripod, which is the same broken tripod that I had in Portland, but I don't want to put more plastic in the landfill. So I'm trying to make it work, even though it's literally taped together with electrical tape at this point. It's just, I need to face the facts and get rid of it, but now I've got a solution going, so I feel very clever and like I can keep it out of the landfill for a little while longer. This is sheer idiocy. But yeah, that's sort of how it's been. I haven't even been to Lake Michigan yet since we got here, and it's been 2 weeks. We've just been, it's just been all the things. Oh, we discovered that we left our Le Creuset Dutch oven in our old apartment, which was our Christmas gift to ourselves last year because it was such a crappy year, and we thought, you know what, we're getting a Dutch oven and we're gonna bake sourdough bread. Well, I was planning on baking some bread here, and then I was like, oh my God, we left that. And it's not inexpensive. It's a luxury item, I would say. But our old landlords, bless their hearts, found it, and we're working on maybe figuring out who's going to ship it to us. So we don't have to buy a new one, which is great because we've spent a lot more money than we thought we would on this move, which is fine. It's great. That's why we saved it, you know. But it has cut in a little bit into our down payment savings. So everything is just chaos. Everything is not going according to plan. But you know, I have days where I wake up and I go, wow, I live in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Like, I live in Wisconsin. I don't have family here. There's never been a moment in my life before the last few years where I thought I would move to the Midwest. You know, I never even knew what the Midwest was, really. You know, it was like, it's funny because I think you can live your whole life not really realizing that other places are right there and you could totally go there and and that you might want to, you might want to go there, at least for a visit, because it's just different enough from home. I think I've always imagined myself traveling internationally and traveling to, places that, like when I think about where I want to travel in the US, like national parks. Okay, yeah. New York City, I think, Los Angeles, right? There's some obvious ones where you're like, there's specific things there that I want to see. But yeah, I am just sort of amazed sometimes at like, wow, we wanted this to happen and we made it happen. And this has been a year for me of being really intentional and trying to manifest things. And I use that term lightly because I think manifestation is one of those things that I have an uneasy relationship with anything which just presupposes that we all have the power to just make things better in our lives, because obviously a lot of people around the world are living on $5 a day, and it seems pretty smug to tell people that they could just manifest their way out of a situation. I think it's one of those things that, yeah, if you have enough privilege and you have enough foresight, yes, you can manifest your way into another place. But I mean, the reality is we saved money. We made specific moves to make this happen. We didn't just wish for it, right? And so I think, on the other hand, manifestation can mean specifically that, right? Like taking advantage of whatever opportunities present themselves. Yeah, and I think I need to just wrap this up because I'm rambling at this point. But let me know in the comments below what you've been up to, what you've been knitting. And I have a giveaway to do soon. I think what I'll do is I'll just announce it on Instagram, because I have to look at, I've hit over 100 subscribers. That's what I'm saying. I've hit over 100 subscribers. I need to do a giveaway, and I don't really have a plan for that yet. I do have a prize package, but I don't have a plan for it. So I guess I'll get back to you in the next episode. or maybe you'll know by then. I don't know. But yeah, I will be doing that giveaway soon. I'm all over the place. It's time to go. Bye. Thank you for stopping by. Thank you for listening to me. Have a wonderful, wonderful week.